Hi, I'm Nora. I'm going to moderate this panel today, this Q&A. I want to introduce Dianna Agron, actress and producer of the film. Liz Cardenas, producer of the film. And our writer-director, Laemmle. Maybe you're down a mic. I'm going to pass mine off as soon as I ask a question. First of all,
I'm
yes.
so weird. I'm gonna interrupt already.
Go ahead.
People need to know who you are because you're a fantastic filmmaker.
No.
I wanted to just, this is my friend Nora, Kirkpatrick, who is an outstanding writer, director, musician. We've known each other for
Long time.
yeah. So it's amazing that she's here today.
Thanks, guys. Well, it's my pleasure. Do you want to, before we dive into questions, I know there's a lot of people here who were involved in the film. Do you want to stand up so we can support you really quickly? Great, well, I'll just jump in by saying this is my second time seeing the movie. I loved it so much. It's such a huge achievement to pull off a film like this. There are so many themes and elements of it that are so moving to me, but I want to talk a little bit, just to start, Dianna, I know you're also a producer on the film, and I wanted just to talk a little bit about, for you and your career, when you dive into something as both a producer and an actor, how that changes your involvement in the creative process and why that's something you were really looking to do in your life, because I know you've been doing that in a lot of different ways and using your producer skills. So I'm just curious how that changes the creative process for you.
Well, it wouldn't have been possible without the invitation from Alex. I had made it very clear that I loved Alex's work, and he sent over this script, and it just felt like the best and easiest thing to say yes to, particularly after we had a very loving, interesting conversation about relationships with, your friends, parents, people in your life. And then it was so wonderful to be able to build this together. It was a weird time. It was, I think we started talking in April of 2020, and we made this film at the end of April in 2021. So there was many limitations. Yeah, we don't need to say the words. But there were many limitations as it related to how we could build this. And Liz was just so outstanding coming in, Chris in Egypt. Like, we just had a team of people that realized that the only way we were going to be able to get this done is if we built it very small. And we went to Oregon and we filmed it in all different pockets around Azalea and Grants Pass. And we did things in a way that in the indie film space can be so amazing, because you really, everybody's wearing too many hats. I think we had typically in a department you'd have, let's say, a production designer like Nate, and he'd have other hands, people helping him, but it was just him. So yeah, he deserves a round of applause. So that house, when you look and you see all of the stuff that's built, so you see Thomas's world that is so lived in. That was Nate in 3 days before we started shooting. 3, maybe at 2, maybe at 1. Yeah.
Very impressive.
So that was just, but Alex gave me the gift of really allowing me to be involved in those building processes the entire time. And there are some parts that are really, really fun when you get to talk about characters and talk about how you're going to build those people and what else you want to bring in. And then there are things that are totally bizarre, like, you're on meetings with potential investors and you're doing your song and dance and trying to convince people to give you money. And there's just so many ways in which it's very key and crucial to be ever so positive, because it's impossible to get things made, and then ever so grateful when it works out.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And Alex, tell me a little bit about, we talked a little bit about the creative process. You guys used a lot of improv on set. So talk to me a little bit about how you went from treatment to script and how that shifted on set throughout the use of improv.
Well, every film I've built has always been, it's always started with one actor, which is usually half of my entire cast. And it's like, the question is like, how do we build this to be even more what you want to do, maybe something that people have not seen you do enough, right? So how do we, really optimize it? And this was originally, way back when it was a father-son story, there were no aliens, and then it got some aliens. But it was like, if the daughter thing was not too much before I reached out to Dianna. And so, obviously there's some stuff just about connection and love and some stuff that I can still understand even, writing a woman with Chris Dowling. But the big question in pre-production, or in the early development stages was, Dianna, like how do we build this more to a story that really, is coming from your heart as well, so that this is as much like, your reality as possible. And as a daughter to a father, could you help me understand what the thing is? We didn't know why now, why she needed to go see him. Like we knew that they needed to rebuild this bond and to love each other and to forgive, or not even forgive each other, just to be patient with each other. But there needed to be a why now. And it was Dianna, on one of our first phone calls. I was like, what is the thing? And it was your idea, this brilliant idea of like, I think she needs to tell him that she's pregnant. That's movies don't get developed that way, right? You don't usually like cast your lead actor and they tell you, by the way, this is like the moment that's gonna make everybody cry and we gotta change it that way. And so, that's a bigger element, but a lot of little pieces that we put into the story in pre-production were from conversations with Dianna and Thomas, where we were bringing our stories, our connections, to our own parents, or for Thomas, for his own kids. And as we kind of understood how we all had skin in the game, we more and more felt comfortable throwing the script away for certain scenes when we were shooting and just doing dramatic improv. And I think there's a difference between good improv and bad improv. They obviously did great improv because it felt so naturalistic and real. And a lot of times I think it's Dianna and Thomas speaking to each other about their own life, experiences and their own feelings. And sure, we're using the cover of this story and these character names and everything, but these are real feelings that we spent a year building up and connecting on.
That's lovely. And Dianna, what did you feel like when you were doing the improv on set? How much I know you stuck to the script in certain beat points. Did you like that process? Was that nerve-wracking? How did it feel for you?
I loved that process. It was really helpful because I had spent some time at Groundlings,
Yeah.
And I never got to be the improv artist. There's a
Right.
game that you play, and one of the shows is you as an actor, you learn a script, and your improv artist that you're acting opposite doesn't know what you're going to be talking about. And I did it a few times, and it was just so incredible because you learn the yes and, like, you can't stop the scene. Like, you accept whatever anybody's saying, and then you have to go with that. And so it's tossing a ball back and forth. And I always was so jealous because I was like, one day I get the freedom.
Yeah.
And so that was helpful to kind of have that knowledge and kind of have been able to play in that space. But I think also with Thomas, there's something so great where he's so dry. And I had an idea, because we had spent so much time developing these characters over the course of the months leading up to filming. We had spoken on the phone, and he would make jokes. He's like, I'm not a Zoomer, like I'm a guy that picks up the phone. And so we would speak to each other on the phone, but what that also provided was I hadn't been able to study his face as this character. I'd only been able to hear him and hear him as him. And so being on set was also amazing to see him that first time we walked into the diner and be like, like, that's
Oh, that
him.
was the first time?
Not in the movie, but in real life. The diner that we shot at, we went there
Like
to go
3
for
days
a
before we started
lunch.
shooting.
Yeah. And I did have this catch feeling of like, oh, there he is. That's that guy that I haven't seen ever, but also in 10 years,
But also the other secret to good improv is like listening, right? Not just like thinking about what am I gonna say next that's clever or funny. And so like you guys did it so fantastic. And obviously like this whole journey of these characters is them actually fucking learning how to listen to each other and surprising each other with the moments they are listening to each other in that. So I think that's why maybe the improv works so well for this story specifically, because of what these two characters are trying to accomplish.
And did you find more elements like surprised you in that process? Did things ever come out during an improv that you were not expecting that ended up staying in the movie?
I mean, Thomas is a funny. I always hate it when like the best joke in the movie isn't mine. But Ben jamming, oh my god,
That was really good.
all of us had the same reaction. He said Ben, and then by the way, he was smoking CBD, but like it was like loophole CBD where you're like, oh, this is the stuff that does get you high, but isn't technically THC. And it was like light, but he like smoked like 12 of those joints because he had a lot of taste. And so all of a sudden we're like, I think Thomas is in a really good mood right now. And yeah, Ben jamming, we all looked at each other like, what the fuck is he talking about? And then he hit us with the punchline. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That whole storytelling in the back of the truck,
Yeah.
I was
Oh
like,
yeah, when everyone went to the hospital,
yeah,
that was
but
great.
it also, there were so many other details and there were so many other twists. Like if you could have a full cut of all of those
Oh my God. Yeah.
things that were in that story. It was just one, I think that was the first moment we also, not only as characters, but as people really bonded. I feel like that was the first week.
That was the first magic moment.
It was
where
the first lightness that we were able to experience with each other because we really went, oh, Migo.
Yeah.
This is Migo, by
Wow.
the way.
There he is. Great performance.
Truly a star dog. Like never have you ever seen a better actor dog than Migo.
But it was so magical. Yeah, does Migo want to come down to? Yeah, come on, Migo. Migo. If I had a tennis ball, you'd be here. Yeah, yeah.
Look at him.
What the other thing that was really special about that back of a pickup truck scene is like all of a sudden it just felt like two kids were talking to each other. And for anybody that's experienced that moment with like a parent or a child where all of a sudden you feel like we're breaking down the barriers of like responsibility and just for a second like we're just two people and connecting on that level.
Yeah.
And clearly there's a lot of that thematically in the film, but like it happens so naturally in that moment. And you know, I think even you guys' voices, just there's so many ways I was like, oh my God, they're so like I see it, you know, and it came together in that pickup truck where it was like two kids having fun, just smoking a joint and talking about aliens. It's awesome.
Well, Liz, let me ask you a question about, since you, a producer of this film and getting this kind of thing together is such an achievement. It is so hard to get movies made, and especially at this level, it's a real art. So I think that there can be a lot of, obviously hard things about making a movie at this budget, but so many beautiful things that can come out of this. So just talk to me a little bit about your experience in making indie films in this way.
Well, one thing that we talked about for this particular film, and Alex and I have talked about in previous films, is when you film in a location like this, as Dianna was like saying, in like southern rural Oregon, where everyone's kind of filming in a bubble away from everyone, we really became a family. And so, it's one of those things that it was during COVID, so it does make it safer when we are filming in that way. But it also really brought out the trust, the camaraderie with the whole family. And, I do feel like it's like a trickle down effect. So like the attitude and the energy. So, when we first started filming, our kickoff dinner, Alex went around and said something about every single crew member that impressed upon him, that made them feel really a part of the whole filmmaking experience. And everyone was collaborating. And then Dianna, as a both actress and a producer, she was involved in everything. And so she really helped create this environment of we're all here collaborating. And on these smaller films, they are really difficult to make, but everyone's coming there because they're trying to tell a story, they're passionate about it, trying to create art. It's not about making money, it's not about other things. And that's the beauty of these types of films, is that everyone is so creative and collaborative, and I think it translates to the screen.
It absolutely did. You could feel that also between the actors, but it felt like a set where everybody wanted to be there.
Yeah, definitely with the whole cast and crew made with love.
Yeah. Well, Alex, let me ask you again to talk a little bit about, I think ideas are so fickle and they come and you have no idea when they're coming. I just want to ask you where the seed of this came from.
Not gonna cry. You know, I think that this is, we all want to be loved, and we all want to be seen by our parents and our kids and our friends, the people we love. And I think it's pretty much impossible to always feel loved in the way you want to feel loved at all times. And to try to like demand that, first of all, like as kids, like we demand that from our parents because we hold them at these, you know, really, really high places, but we demand that from a lot of people we love and we want that love from. And you know, this, I guess in a way it's a thought experiment to see, you know, if we can get to this place where we're not necessarily demanding the love exactly the way we need it all the time, and instead we start trying a little harder to recognize the love in the way that that person can express it, and in the moments they express it, those little flashes that you might have missed if you didn't pay attention. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. It's part of growing up and becoming your parent's parent, or recognizing your partner or whoever in ways where you're no longer, you know, judging or. I guess it's taking ownership of like that loneliness and that need, and then also recognizing the ways it's being filled in ways that you might not have, you know, filled it if you weren't paying attention. Skies or religion or whatever, jokes, sock puppets. There's like a lot of ways where like it can really like fill you if you pay attention.
That's beautiful. And Di, just kind of on the same thought, I know you're reading a lot of things. There's a lot of things coming through. What was it about when you read this that you were like, this is something I want to be involved in?
I hadn't really done an exploration like this. Ooh.
Okay, be fine.
That means they want us to keep talking.
3 minutes. Okay, no problem, no problem.
We'll finish.
How many? 3.
3 minutes.
Okay. I hadn't really explored a relationship drama like this. I had so weird. Now I know this is my preparation for my award at some point. I'll be like, thank you so much. And it was strange because right before Alex sent me this script, I had thought, you know, I have a very challenging relationship with my own father because he's been sick over half of my life. So I know what it is to say goodbye to one version of that person and reintroduce myself to a new version. And I've done that many, many times over. And I thought, you know what? I just reached a point where I was like, I would like to explore that in a
Yeah.
And then the script came. So it was like,
Yeah.
that is sometimes you get
Yeah.
what you ask for.
Yeah, the universe.
But this was really beautiful because there were so many elements. Like it was not like my
Yeah.
own relationship.
Yeah. I mean, and just to say, and the scene where he's burying the dog and you're on the ground, for me was like an incredibly moving moment. And so I really appreciated that moment, and you could tell how personal that was and what that felt like. So beautiful work all around. Really love the film, and thank you.
What a joy to watch you